was very happy with Lies of P's success. It is hands down one of the best Souls-likes ever, and thankfully enough, it is not that far away that we can go back to Kratz, or at the very least to the world in Lies of P. I cannot say sincerely that it is going to be necessarily on Kratz, because probably the DLC is going to be taking place at a different location. That being said, since the DLC is coming very soon, we don't have any trailers yet. But EBN, a Korean news outlet, has reported that Newiz, or Round 8, have announced that the DLC is actually coming, like I said, very soon, on the first quarter of 2025. Not only that, but they are working on other juicy, very juicy things alongside with that. They are actually working in more games. One of them, it is already known, since it was announced not too long after the release of the original Lies of P. They were already working on a direct sequel to Lies of P. Given that the game's ending, we see what it seems to be some kind of a Dorothy. Players connected the dots and figured out that we might be seeing some kind of interconnected or yeah, like some kind of interconnection between the fairy tale story tales, kind of like that, towards the Wizard of Oz, because to some extent it makes sense, especially if they are trying to build their entire universe and IP on that regard. That ending is more than likely not going to be part of the DLC though, because we have some more information on that regard that we will discuss later on in this video, so that yeah, that's probably going to be precisely for the sequel of the game, not necessarily on DLC, but I will get to that later on. However, that is not everything that they are working on. Aside from DLC, Lies of P direct sequel, EBN reported that they are also working on a brand new sci-fi horror game IP. Aside from being, like I said, a new Lies of P game, outside from that universe, like the success that they managed to gather with Lies of P allowed them to grow the studio a little bit better. And there's also like it is very important to remember that the Korean government acknowledged the success that Lies of P and Stellar Blade brought on Korea. That being the case, it is not really far-fetched to think that the video gaming industry is going to receive even more financial support designed for game development and things like that. Mentioned in such article where they said that they are going to be releasing something different, like the likes of Dead Space and Callisto Protocol, as a forefront to what they are inspiring themselves on. However, this is just probably a comparison because these are the titans in the industry, not that there's like many titans in the industry or pioneers in this genre at the very least when it comes to the sci-fi setting, of course, that being strictly as well close into the horror genre. Whether that game being a Souls-like or not, that remains to be seen, since we don't have any more details, and Round 8 Studio being a brand new studio with their only game developed, Lies of P, it's hard to say if they are going to remain strictly on a Souls-like mindset for game developing. Now, speaking about developing, before we continue, let me tell you a little bit about today's sponsor, Boot.dev. If you ever wanted to become a software engineer developer, these guys have you covered. You see, I myself, I am a teacher, and at the same time I am always learning stuff, because knowledge is power. Language is one of my main jobs, and as of right now I am learning even more languages, but the first enemy of learning, it's difficult, challenge and boredom. Let's just lay it how it is. Sometimes learning can be boring. That's why we teachers have to design new interesting ways for students to learn. And Boot.dev, they just do that. I'm addicted to their platform. You learn, you solve codes, you interact with code, you see what's wrong with your code, and the explanations are just brilliant. Examples are clear, and difficulty pacing and curve, it's just on point. if you ever run into any issues, you can use their AI pet to help you, or downright just ask for solutions, but there's a trade-off. If you're proficient on your own, you get rewards that you can then redeem for cool prizes. And like, yeah dude, I know it's like a it's a stereotype, but I like to believe that every programmer loves video games. That's the theme in here. You'll learn programming with RPG examples like this code is giving you a buff to your weapon, or this is what happens behind the scenes when you're coding. There's also lore behind all of this world that we have in here for this platform in like an RPG-ish kind of sense. Like I said before, knowledge on itself, it's just rewarding enough. But this is also an investment that you can profit from. According to the Stack Overflow programming salary for US programmers in 2023, it was about $100,000, and it's a high demand career. And remember that programming is something that you can work remotely. I myself, I am acquainted to people that work for the US based on different countries because they do programming. So if you want to learn how to code, or you're on your way to become a software engineer, go to boot.dev and use my code to get 25% off your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. But that is not all. I am also going to be giving away 2-year-long code subscriptions so that you can start your way to learning programming with this amazing page. If you want to enter the giveaway, all you have to do is also join my personal Discord, where you are going to find the instructions on how to join the giveaway. So that being said, let's actually talk about the DLC and what we actually do know about the DLC, because there's a great deal of things that we actually do know about the DLC. I would like to start with the game's lore. That's one of the aspects that I loved the most about Lies of P, that it resembles the very same kind of narrative system that we have in From Software games. This is something that not a lot of people like. Like, there's like this kind of narrative where you have to basically explore the world, read information from items, or gather information, piece the pieces together based on what you're physically seeing in the world, but that it is not interacting with you. There is quite a bit more dialogue in here, so the story is a little bit more strictly told directly to you by the characters, but you do need to still have to be doing those very interesting quests, and that yeah, you do need to do some of those quests alongside with the descriptions of things to be able to understand what's going on. Now, there is a twist of dark fantasy that Round 8 gave to Lies of P, and while you might think it's somewhat disconnected because of the type of narrative that we have in here, it couldn't be more far from the truth. The characters have the same impact as they did on the original story. That's one of the aspects, like I mentioned, that I loved about this the Lies of P. You have a base canvas in here, this being the case the world that Carlo Lorenzini wrote for the original Pinocchio story. Some of those characters, you can see them here. You can still see what they are trying to do, and they still share some kind of parallelism to that of the original story. It's just that their take in here is that like they are warriors and things like that. They are puppets. These kind of puppets, they are some types of specific warriors that are designed for this dark fantasy twist that we see on this world. Now, thanks to the artwork that they have been sharing over the course of 2024, we can at the very least see that this is going to be going on a coastal setting. You can see coast towns, shipwreckages, or moving ships even if we get creative in here, depending on what you want to see. What seems to be a laboratory of some sorts as well, that goes hand in hand with the overall game aesthetic and the alchemist's narrative proposed to the base game as well, which that is one of the new things about the game that's not necessarily a true part of the original fairy tale for Pinocchio. And the latest one was this picture where you can see P facing a lighthouse on this coast town. Alongside with this picture, you have this marvelous and beautiful song that has been playing throughout the course of this video. And yes, that's one other amazing aspect about Lies of P. This is something that you can expect on the DLC as well. It has one of the greatest soundtracks ever heard in a video game, at least in my personal opinion. It is just so good that even after all this time, I still listen to these tunes while I work. Now, it's also said by the game director in a letter that he released quite a while ago that on the DLC they are trying to leverage, they are trying to capitalize what is it that they did good on the base game, and the things that they didn't do that good, because they acknowledge that there's like some rough edges around here and there, they are trying to address them and not make those same mistakes right there. Have in mind that even though the game does have like some kind of weird rough edges and some kind as well of balancing issues, I think that them learning and acknowledging that they are there, and this game just being such an amazing game as a base, everything, it just makes me be more excited about this DLC, because basically they are just saying what a DLC should be. We take everything that worked from the base game and we improved it and give you more in a DLC, which I'm all down for that. Talking about theories though, and what we can expect from the DLC, while most of the enemies that you encounter in Lies of P are puppets, there's also living flesh humanoids that have been turned into monsters by the plague. I would not discard some kind of a Lovecraftian inspiration for the DLC, given this lighthouse emphasis in the coast town. That's one of the aspects that I was hoping for Lies of P to capitalize, which it didn't, it did not. I know that a lot of us found some kind of a new generation Bloodborne-ish feeling in here because of the art style and the city and the vibe and the overall idea of Kratz. Everything here, they accomplished it for that matter. But for more Lovecraftian essence would be really appreciated with this masterful game right here. Just remember that there's also characters from the original story, like I did mention, that they are very a quintessential part of the narrative of this game, and there's a lot of characters that we did not see on the base game. Like, for example, Monstro, which is the whale that Geppetto and Pinocchio get eaten by in the original story, and then Pinocchio lights a bonfire inside which causes the whale to spit them out immediately. I think that we can expect a Monstro whale boss encounter, given that we do have shots where we see P directly in the ocean. That would be really cool to see and experience. However, we wouldn't be sure if it's going to be like this kind of living flesh type of monster, like the many of them that we do have in the base game, or is it going to be just a puppet? It's just amazing that this game is going to be launching really soon on the beginning of 2025. Anyways, if you like the content, so like and never super appreciate it. Not only that you are just a beautiful person, you're in the gorgeous and beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel, you're in the Discord. Have a beautiful day.